Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. As always, I want to say thank you for your continuous support. You all have been fantastic. Watching, sharing my content, I truly, deeply appreciate you all. The new, the old, the in-betweens, thank you all. Let's jump right into today's episode. So I'm holding a teacup because this is a conversation that requires me to hold myself together in order for me to glue myself together while I'm sharing you this without falling apart. I have to be drinking something to glue my intestines. It's a very heavy subject today, so I needed something to hold me together. And the question I'm going to begin with, which I always do, is should a religious organization be responsible for informing a couple or encouraging a couple to divorce in an abusive situation? I'll say that one more time. Should a religious organization be responsible for encouraging a couple to exit an abusive situation, an abusive marriage? That's the question that I'm going to make an attempt to answer on today's episode. We'll be right back. I came across this article of the late Mrs Osinachi. She was a gospel singer, was only 42 years old, had 4 children, and was married to a pastor named Peter Nwachukwu. On April 8th, 2022, she was announced dead. And initially, we all thought she had throat cancer, but then later on, we heard that she died due to complications as it relates to domestic violence that she endured in her marriage with Peter Nwachukwu. Now, when I was trying to understand the story deeply, I kept coming across videos of women, men complaining about abuse and just saying things like the church knew she was going through this. Why didn't they do anything about it? And I wanted to answer that question again. It was posed to me anyways to answer it. So I thought, okay, let me do the honor and try my best to answer the question as best as I can. Before I share with you a lot more detail into what we got planned today, I just want you to take a listen to this woman and how she sounds. But just take a listen to her song very quickly.
You feed me, Lord, when some feed their gods. Oh. You fought for me when some fight for their gods. Jesus, you know they use me play. Nah, 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 nah. You know they use me play.
Ooh, she's a powerful singer. Her voice is angelic. She's remarkable. The strength in how she pronounces things and how she communicates her words. You can tell that she really is and she's talented, right? She's great and talented. Now, the interesting thing about this is, as I was listening to her gathering information, it made me realize that she has this force that that come across in her singing. And it's almost as if, as an artist myself, that she's trying to also tell us something else about her life that we may not otherwise know. That it may be indirectly crying for help as she sings, because her energy is just powerful and it moves you because it's telling a deeper story, in my opinion. Now, I want you to understand that abuse is not an African issue. Abuse is not a Nigerian issue. Abuse is a global issue. Statistics say that 1 in 3 women have faced some form of abuse, whether it's been sexual or physical, throughout their lifetime. Another statistic states that, every 4 hours, 6 women are murdered by men around the world. Every 4 hours, 6 women are murdered by men around the world. So this just lets you know that this is a thing that happens every day. As I'm speaking, somebody's probably being murdered. Not a funny situation, So for this story to surface in the way that it did, I'm truly grateful because it opens up a conversation about abuse. And hopefully we can be vulnerable and honest about how we talk about this. So after her death, the government of Nigeria sent some investigative team to gather some story on Mrs Osinachi. And they had a chance to speak with her children. So I want to play a clip of the children just explaining what their mother's life and their lives were like living with their father. So take a listen.
Their dad used to beat their mom, and their mom was always sad. She would always sad and thinking he would beat her and fling her off. He doesn't spare them himself, that he gathered them in the room and will be beating them with a big belt. If the mom comes in to ask him to stop, he will turn back on her, beat her, lift her, fling her up. And that has always been the issue. And that they are always scared, and that he doesn't go out, he's always in the home. It's the mom that runs around. She goes for her gospel music, bring back the money. In fact, if the money is paid through cash, through a bank account, it's paid to his account. She has no account of her own. Any cash she comes back with, he collects it. And he will give just a peanut to her for feeding. In fact, the boy said he eats more than them. He will give mommy small money, and when she cooks, the next minute he starts shouting and beating her, that he is always shouting. And their mom was living in fear, always sitting sad. Oh, it was such a horrible story to hear from a young boy of just 12. The eldest son is 12. And because of the trauma the children went through, I asked him which class he is. He's in class 5 at the age of 12. Why? He said he can't even read. A boy of 12 years can't even read. So mentally, this child is already destroyed.
Retarded, yes.
Completely. I was battling with tears. So when he finished, I asked him to move to the other side.
So you understand that abuse doesn't only affect the woman greatly, right? It also affects the children, and that's what we're seeing in this situation. Very tragic. In Africa, and particularly in Nigeria, because that's where this thing took place, there aren't any law, honestly, that govern women for sure. And if there are laws out there, which I think one was passed 2015, and it's called the People's Act or something like that, violence against the people, something like that. And this is a law, I guess, that stops some form of violence. But in terms of violence against women, I don't think that's an existent. And even if it's there, it is not it is not utilized. It is not implemented. It is not reinforced. People don't take laws like that seriously. I still feel that cultural traditions are much more superior than constitutional laws. So I hope that this tragic situation with Mrs. Osinachi opens up a conversation on making those laws superior, making those constitutional laws superior, where men are being held accountable for the damage that they've done. And if a woman is abusive, she's also held accountable as well. This is not a man and woman or man situation. This is, if any person is abusive, let them face some punishment as a result of as it relates to their action. So which brings me right back to the reason why I started my video in the first place, and which is a question again: should a religious organization be responsible for informing a couple or encouraging a couple to break off their marriage if it's abusive? My answer to that question is no. What people do in their marriages is nobody's business. The only people that should be making decisions about their marriage are the people involved in the marriage, not religious organization. Simply because you can't force a person to walk away from an abusive situation when they're not ready to leave. They have to be well enough to make that decisions to walk away, because even if you encourage them to leave and they don't understand why they're leaving, they are more likely to return. With the situation with Mrs. Osinachi, she's a well-respected woman in the community of in the Christian community, right? Whether it's been in Nigeria, whether it's been in Africa, whether it's been around the world. So maybe in her mind, divorcing her husband was not an option for her. Maybe she felt she's uphold this character, and a true Christian should not ever divorce. And as we can obviously see, it led to her death. The fact that she constantly allowed her husband to abuse her allegedly caused her death. And also, as we watched earlier, it damaged her kids because they're forever going to fight that battle with themselves, you know. And so I think that as a society, honestly speaking, our goal is not to tell people what to do in their marriages or in their situations. I think that we should, especially parents raising children, we should encourage our children to recognize abuse and to flee from abuse. And that also we are not staying in an abusive situation to tell our children, to inform them that it's okay to stay, because they see what we do. Children don't learn from what's being said. They learn from what they see you do is what they learn from. Honestly, I was once a kid, so I know. This is a tragic situation. It's tragic because her children will no longer see her again. It's tragic because her family has lost a sister. They've lost an aunt. It's tragic because the world has lost a talented, incredible woman. It's tragic because we will no longer hear any songs from her. I hope that this situation opens up an honest conversation about abuse. Because Mrs. Osinachi's story is heard around the world. There are lots of Osinachis out there whose voices aren't being heard, whose faces we will never get to see, whose names we may not even know, and we may not even get to know. And these are everyday people who go back home to their husband and get abused. It is tragic. So I hope that we can begin to have an honest conversation about abuse, especially in Africa. A place, Nigeria, for example, where 24% of men and 34% of women believe that a woman should be beaten in a certain situation. Nigeria is an abusive society. It's built on abuse. So I am very excited that this has sparked a national conversation on abuse. Not only is the woman or man suffering in a situation like this, the children who are supposedly who are to be the next generation are being raised in a messed up society, in a messed up environment. And the family of these couples, these parents, are also suffering. My heart goes out to Osinachi's parents and family and siblings. My heart goes out to her children. I really do hope with all my heart that justice is served in this situation. And I hope that this is a lesson for all of us as well. I do want to thank you for taking the time today to watch my video. I want to open it up to you to just share with me your thoughts. Should a religious organization be responsible for or encouraging a couple to exit an abusive marriage? Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.